I remember a time I was working with a fellow teacher, and she was wrought with despair. She had been trying for months to have a child with no success. She asked me how I dealt with my own infertility. I remember telling her, being the knowledgeable 28-year-old that I was, that God knew her deepest desires, and He would deliver those desires. They may not be in the form that you wanted, but they would be more than she ever wanted. I remember the feeling of knowing as I spoke those words that God was not only prompting those words, but He was also branding that declaration into my own heart. You see, growing up, I was never the one playing mom. My sister was the one that wanted 100 children, be a stay-at-home mom. Me, I formed a neighborhood circus at the age of 9. I sold tickets, gave each child in the neighborhood a role that they would play. I was a costume designer, a makeup artist. I never thought, played, or dreamed about the day that I would become a mom. Even at a young age, I knew my path was different. If I were not the spitting image of my own mother and the exact wiring of my father, I would have believed that my real family was a band of gypsies that just roam from desert to desert, soaking up the world. This is all I wanted to do, experience the world. I had no time for bottles, breastfeeding. I was Beyonce in the making. I woke up like this. I woke up like this. I continued this way of thinking through high school, college, and even during my marriage. I have always lived with the energy of I have to accomplish something in this life. My poor family, friends, and even my first ex and only husband had to listen to me as I daily struggled to fulfill this accomplishment void. Little did I know that my biggest accomplishment would come to me through a path that I never even really considered. At this time in my life, and against my will, amen, I lived in East Texas in a tiny town that was dripping in Baptist and gravy and Southern ways. Not that I don't love gravy, because my body loves gravy. But at this time, I thought that I was bigger than the East Texas life I was living. I was an ESL teacher, English as a second language, and I taught all Hispanic 6th through 8th grade children. Most of my students were fresh from the border and knew little to no English, or had been here a few years and were of moderate fluency. I fell in love with all of my students, but there was one that just zinged my soul. When I met Mariah, she was malnourished, had a skin disorder, and was incapable of holding eye contact for more than a minute. If her body language and her appearance wasn't enough, her educational file let me know that she was in a compromising home life. I worked with Mariah for a year, and then I knew this child would never have a chance if I didn't extract her from her current crumbling living situation. I remember the day that I rolled over to my ex-husband, and I said, "So, I think I'm going to take in this kid I teach. Do you want coffee? Would you like cream?" He understood when I said those words to him that my mind was made up and there was no need to argue. He knew that I would not only sell him on the idea, but I would probably be so convincing I would make him think that it was his idea. Mariah's mother was in an abusive relationship and was in a place in her life that she knew Mariah needed more than she could provide. After 35 minutes and a conversation through a translator, I was given custody of Mariah. With a tiny duffel bag and a cautious look, Mariah loaded up into my rugged Jeep, and we went home. I now had a 12-year-old that I had to raise. I remember the first couple of years were full of mothering moments, doubts, me crying in my closet, telling my mother and my sister, "What have I done to my life? My womb was dead. I was fine. Why would God do this to me?" But I also had tender moments of Mariah curling up on the couch with me, teaching her about being a Southern woman, teaching her about the Holy Three: God, hair, makeup. Moments that I knew were growing my mother heart. Moments that I had watching her sleep that let me know I could love no human more than I do this human. Mariah and I have faced many trials and hurdles in the 10 years that we have been together. We have cultivated a deep relationship, learning to live through my husband leaving us, battles with immigration, and me learning to be a single mother. Together, we learned the lessons of overcoming abandonment and how to love those who are supposed to love us. The day I was finally able to adopt her, she was 16, and we stood together, already mother and daughter, in that East Texas courtroom, gripping hands, and we made a lifelong commitment to each other. I remember making a covenant with her. I am the parent and the person that never leaves. We're in this together. Now, I have an accomplished 22-year-old daughter that is going to graduate nursing school this year. She has a passion for missions, and her plan is to build a life that gives back through providing medical needs to oppressed children in third world countries. We plan to live this life to the fullest together, soaking in everything that it has to offer. When I look into my daughter's face now, I find it funny that God knew the deepest desires of my heart and gave me more than I could have ever wanted. He gave me a legacy.